I am unbelievably thrilled to bring our next performer to the stage. Please welcome, presenting his Rock and Roll Manifesto, Alex Stein.
She stood before me holding a record in her hand, a record that had a total running time of 42 minutes and 11 seconds, of which 3 minutes and 9 seconds were what I unilaterally decided were our song. And this was a record that was long out of print, but one I loved and had spent years looking for. And this is back when it meant something to search for music. Back when record companies would let records go out of print and you could only find them used. Hell, this is back when there were record companies and records. And she told me that she found this particular record at the Goodwill store by her parents' house. And then she added, "Oh, and I don't love you anymore." Years later, it's the "oh" that confuses me. I said nothing for a really long time, and finally she touched my arm and said, "What are you thinking right now?" And I said this: I believe in guitars and in guitarists. I believe in drums, but not in drummers. I believe in bass and keyboards, but I don't understand them. I believe in punk poetry and the rhyming couplet, in power chords and choruses that are so catchy that you have to listen to them 30 times in a row instead of leaving your house. I believe in the long, slow fade and the fake ending and syncopated polyrhythms that leave you slightly off balance. I believe there are some songs so perfectly crafted that they must have come down from the gods themselves in Valhalla, and that there is one beautiful chord as yet unheard on this earth that instantly makes grown men weep. I believe in lyrics so insightful that they change you forever, and that the line, "The car we bought together just started to rust," is the saddest opening line in the history of rock and roll, and the line, "I hate the asshole I become every time I'm with you," is the truest. I believe in belt drive turntables and speaker wire and those big, heavy wooden crates of records that you would drag from crappy apartment to crappy apartment, even if you'd leave the dishes and your furniture behind. I believe it doesn't matter who you love or who you fuck, but you never forget the music that was playing when you lost your virginity. And there is something very wrong with you if there was no music playing when you lost your virginity. I believe in the Clash and Buddy Holly and the Everly Brothers and John Lennon and the Ramones and Squeeze and Jane Siberry. I believe that Mama Cass Elliot invented Crosby, Stills, and Nash, but Neil Young invented himself, and he would give it all up tomorrow if he could just sing like Smokey Robinson. I believe that Lou Reed was right when he turned on the radio and was saved by that fine, fine music of rock and roll, and that must have been impossibly confusing for John Cale, who composed symphonies and played the viola, the fucking viola, to be in a band with Lou Reed, who said that anyone who wrote a song that had more than 3 chords in it was just showing off. I believe that Paul McCartney is so supremely talented that even his farts are gorgeous and melodic. And yet, there is a special circle in hell where the song "Wonderful Christmas Time" plays over and over on an infinite loop as punishment for the worst sins you can imagine. But most of all, I believe that you don't deserve this record you found at the Goodwill by your parents' house. Oh, I believe that you don't love me anymore, but I don't believe that you love this record, because I'm the one who told you about this record and how I hunted it down in used record stores in 5 different states. This record just fell into your lap. You haven't put in the time. You never truly loved this tragic band whose leader committed suicide, leaving behind a note saying that their manager, who had embezzled millions, was a soulless bastard. That same band whose second most important songwriter killed himself a few years later and left a note for the lead guitarist that just read, "You're next." You don't deserve this record. You haven't suffered for it. And I believe that that's my fault because I taught you the ways of my people, the obsessive music fans. I took you to our most sacred places. I brought you to the used record store below the vegan restaurant in the lesbian college town where they sold the import version of that XTC double album for a loss because they hated how the American record company cut 5 songs and rearranged the running order just to make it fit on one disc. I now know that it was a waste of my time to play for you the music I love and tell you the stories of these bands and the reason every song was important. And there was always a good reason. It was never just, I liked it, because I really listened. I really cared, not like you. And that is why the hollow husk that would have held your soul if you only had one will dry up and blow away, and no one will mourn you and no one will remember. And then she said nothing for a while. And finally, she pushed the record towards me and she said, "You're right. I don't deserve this." And I pushed it back to her and I said, "Listen, someday when you need this, when you need rock and roll to save you, you're going to want to have this record because on that dark night of your soul, you are going to be fucked if all you have to protect you is Christopher Cross or Huey Lewis and the News." So she took the record back and walked away. All these years later, my friends who were even more music obsessed than I was hardly ever listen to records anymore. They tell me it's because they have families and careers. And listen, to tell you the truth, there are still a few things that are more important to me now than they were then and than music was. Still, on foggy nights, when I put the windows down and I'm driving, if the right song comes on the radio, I'll punch the gas, drive a little faster. It's silly. It's childish. I know I should have gotten over this a long time ago, but here's the thing. I still believe. And I still find myself in the few used record stores that remain open, looking through each and every one of the bins. Only now I'm not really sure if what I'm looking for is another copy of that record or just the girl who deserves it. Thank you.